can't feel my face. Coffee spilling all over the place. Forgot the sticks, we're turning around. Another weekend in some hockey town. With a popped up parents, frozen toes, big hearts, bad luck. With a popped up parents, one more tourney, one more puck. We're broke, we're loud, we love this grind. Cause our kid just scored and we lost our minds.
Greetings and welcome to Pucked Up Parents, episode 11. My name is Michael. I am a pucked up parent. With me, as always, is my fellow pucked up parent and wife, Angela. Angela, how you doing?
I'm good. Welcome, everyone. We are novice first generation hockey parents in a non traditional hockey town who have learned a lot over our last 12 years as youth hockey parents. So, we wanted to share our trial by fire education and experience with all things youth hockey.
And if you're just joining us, we've been in hockey for about 12 years when our now 17-year-old son started playing. We have two kids that are currently in hockey, our 17-year-old, and we also have an 11-year-old that plays 12U hockey. So we've learned a lot over the course of the last dozen years. We're still learning to this day. I encourage you check through our episode list, go back, listen to the episodes that strike your fancy, and join us as we take our journey on our next episode. Let's talk about our weekend observations. We are coming out of a hockey weekend. It is winter time. We are in the middle of hockey. So, Angela, any observations from the boys' weekend games?
Well, you had the 12U and I had the teenager. And the teenager and his team went on a road trip. We had an overnight. So, my observation is that road trips have really changed from the younger age groups to now traveling with teenagers who can drive themselves. Not necessarily that they're driving themselves to the game, but when we get to the hotel and whatnot, they can then drive themselves around to go pick up food or do whatever, or they can help with the driving on the way to the location or on the way back. So that's been a big change in the last couple of years that is kind of nice.
They're not confined to mom and dad at the hotel. And on top of that, and we'll get into this later, is they can borrow another parent's car or your car and get their buddies and go somewhere and get something to eat or go shopping. I did see some shopping was done. So yeah, I guess that is different. Did he drive any of the way to your destination? You were how far is Owensboro? It's like 4 hours, 3, 4 hours.
Uh, it so our trip was about 3 hours, and I did not have him drive either on the way there or on the way back, but after the game, he and some of his buddies took my vehicle and went and got dinner, whereas I got in the car with some of the other parents, and we went and got dinner separately. So that was kinda nice, and then the boys did some a little adventuring, some shopping at the local super center, and had some fun.
So I'll back up a little bit because it's been over a week since we recorded our last episode. He did play a game Thursday night, relatively close to home. It was a game against a lot of his former teammates that he played with for a substantial number of years. They ended up losing the game pretty badly. He lost pretty badly, but I think the most touching thing that came out of that game was his former coach, who also had a kid on the other team, took the old teammates and bought them all dinner. So it was really neat to see all the kids bond together. I don't want to say one last time. Hopefully it's not, but there's a lot of seniors there. But they did have a little dinner of the former Cincinnati Swords all had dinner together, which with their old coach flipping the bill.
That was a lot of fun, and again, I think that's what led me to the episode this week, we're gonna talk about team bonding and relationships, so I think this is a great time to talk about that.
I want to point out one more thing. So our 12U, he also played too. He played a couple games, great games. He doesn't score very often. He's like the Dennis Rodman of hockey. He's more concerned with defense. He did get a little score, but we also took advantage of the weather. And I'll say take advantage of the weather. It's been miserable. It's cold. It's snowy. But a pond froze over at a nearby park in Cincinnati. So I took him up. We did a little pond hockey. I say we did a little pocket pond hockey. He did the pond hockey, not me. I just walked around in boots. And his coach and the coach's kid just happenstance showed up. So they got to do a little pond hockey, which is really cool where we live. It doesn't happen very often. So we got to experience hockey stripped down to its mother nature form on an open pond overlooking the Ohio River. It was really cool. So Angela, with that said, let's recap our last episode, episode 10. What do we talk about then?
We talked about hockey levels and the layers upon layers of divisions, age divisions, all of those different kinds of things. I think you described it best in your analogy with the Russian doll and how there's just layers upon layers upon layers, and you keep drilling down with each age group.
I don't know why I went to Russian dolls. That's really odd. Maybe hockey Russians. I don't know. Maybe I just saw Miracle on Ice. I could have used onions. Onions have layers, but I went with Russian dolls. Go figure. I'm going to jump back 2 episodes and a lot of feedback on our social media. 2 episodes. What did we talk about? Do you remember what we talked about?
Was that the forgotten and broken gear?
No, no. This was the staying warm at an ice rink.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So Angela, who said she just went to Owensboro, found a diamond in the rough. Haley's Comet. What did you have at the rink?
There were heaters at the rink. I actually took a picture of it and sent it to you while I was sitting in the stands.
Now, clarify, had all rinks have heaters, they're just not turned on. Angela was
Oh,
at
yeah.
that had a heater that was actually turned on, and she sent photographic evidence of it. So, shout out to the ice rink in Owensboro, Kentucky. We salute you as pucked up parents. You had a heated rink to go to.
Well, and I will say the next day we were at another rink in Indiana, and that rink was incredibly cold, and there was a cold breeze in there, and you could see the heaters hanging from the ceiling that were not turned on. So I got up to go see if there was a switch or something that we could turn them on, and one of the dads joked and said, "If you turn those on with this cold wind, we're gonna have a thunderstorm inside the rink."
They're gonna generate up a hurricane. All right. So anyway, shout out to Owensboro's rink. Thank you for turning the heat on for the Northern Kentucky Norse and the parents, so they're not so cold. But let's get into today's subject, Angela. What are we going to talk about today?
So team bonding, you spend so much time with the team, whether it's at practices or games or on road trips or between games. Wanted to talk a little bit about how the kids get to know each other, how they build bonds on the ice and off the ice, as well as us parents. Like I said, I got to spend some time with the parents this weekend that we've spent a lot of time with over the last several years. So thought that would be a good topic for today's episode.
We're going to talk about team bonding, parents and kids. Angela, what the puck am I doing? I know when we started out, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything about hockey. And I was forced into this situation by my child to now become a hockey dad and mingle with these other people and these kids who I did not know. So, what do you got?
Well, I'll start with early in the season. We've had the experience that the teams that our kids have been on typically have some sort of a preseason team party, maybe an organizational event, welcome back to hockey at the beginning of the season, or even preseason workouts where they will do some on ice and off ice workouts. And that's where your initial, I guess, your initiation to the team starts. You get to start meeting the kids, you get to start meeting the parents, and I think that's where the particularly the kids and the coaches start their bonding within those early season practices and preseason workouts.
We've done it before. I mean, it's like the first day of high school. It's the first day you're in the new it's like the Mean Girls. You're trying to fit in, you don't know where you fit in at. You know, everybody's kind of looking at you. You're trying to figure out the clicks. We were embraced by organizations as we moved along, luckily enough. But I've seen parents come in who are just kind of awkward, standing in the corner, and you kind of walk over, introduce yourself. The pre-season parties, we've had those. They're pool parties. They generally take place in the late summertime, so, you're gonna have a cookout over at Bob's house. We're gonna go swim in their pool. We almost joined a team once where there was a party at a farm. It was a huge farm in Central Kentucky, and we went down there and they had a little cookout. So it was an opportunity to meet people and meet the kids and get acclimated to the team.
I think in those situations, that's where you're getting introduced to everybody. One thing that the team apps do now, but back in our early days of being hockey parents, the team manager would put together a list of all the kids' names and their jersey numbers, as well as the kids' parents' names. And that was always really helpful for me to try to start putting together who goes with who.
I'm absolutely terrible with names. I mean, as far as when Sam and both Henry joined teams that I didn't know, you could slap a name tag on a parent and they could carry that thing till December. And in January, I'm probably going to forget their name. So I don't know if I'm just forgetful. I don't care. I mean, I do care. If I just I have a hard time remembering names, and I'll tell you how bad it is. We've been friends with one particular dad, or actually a few parents, but one dad I actually was texting him today, friend Brent, who is we've been on vacation with him. We lived in the same neighborhood. This is one of my closest friends. He's still in my phone as Brent Prentice's hockey dad of Gavin. So that's how I have him in there. I've never changed it, but that's how I remembered who he was.
12 years later, you still have that.
I'm just too lazy
I
to fix it.
I think this is the time of year, and some of us, like you, it takes the entire season of putting together which parents go together and which parents go with which kid. That's something that to be on the lookout for, and some of us are more introverted and some of us are more extroverted, and I tend to be a little bit more of an introvert, but I've made friends with some extroverts who are really good at reaching out to especially the new people on the team and getting to know them.
I think in our marriage, I'm kind of the extrovert and you've always been the introvert. But for some reason, and I don't know why it's this way, when it comes to sports and especially hockey and our kids' hockey, you turn into the extrovert and I turn into the introvert. It's a weird dynamic in our marriage. I don't know why it is. It's maybe because I don't have a sports background and I'm not athletic and I don't buy into all the sports dad stuff. But you are way more outgoing than I am. And Angela and I secretly, when we meet these new parents and we don't know their names, we give them nicknames. We have like little nicknames like, oh, there's a backwards hat dad, or hey, there's a, you know, dad who likes Applebee's every time we go out to eat. So if you're listening and you are in our kids' organization and our kids' teams, we probably gave you a nickname up first just to help us remember who you were. And eventually we became friends.
Right, and I think there's also the stereotype or the general convention of, "Oh, you're Sam's dad," or, "Oh, you're Bill's dad, you're Evan's dad," or mom or whatever. I think there's
Mr.
a lot of that as
About
well.
we talked about Mr. Ryan's dad way back
Right.
on the episode about equipment. Mr. Ryan's dad would tie all the kids' skates, and that's what the kids called him. They called him Mr. Ryan's dad, so we in turn did the same thing. I mean, eventually we got his real name, but, for at least a season or 2, to me, he was Mr. Ryan's dad. I didn't have him in my cell phone as Mr. Ryan's dad, but yeah, we referred to him as Mr. Ryan's dad. So, at the beginning of the season, or I'm sorry, we're still in the preseason, you have the kickoff party. Generally, most teams do that, and then the kids kinda start the off-ice trainings, pre-ice training, so they'll do some exercise, preseason workouts, maybe even some team building events. I know we've done those before, and even, like, the organization itself, at least for our Cincinnati home rink, does, like, a huge welcome back to hockey party. Do you wanna go into any details on those?
I think that varies organization by organization. We've been a part of at least 3 or 4 different organizations at this point between both kids. And I think a lot of times it's also a fundraising opportunity, and I think that's a whole nother topic we can get into at some other point. But a lot of times they'll use this preseason or beginning of season event as a fundraiser. They're selling gear, they're doing basket giveaways, raffles, all of those kinds of things to try to get everybody engaged with not only your team, but with the organization itself.
And it's just like first day of high school or a fraternity sorority rush. People are just kind of meandering about. I mean, of course, the kids are running off and playing and causing havoc, but the parents are just kind of wandering around. Hopefully, your spouse is with you, and you can almost tell. And I don't know about you, but I can sort of tell the seasoned parents versus the new parents, or the parents who have. We were always kind of, especially with our 12U, we were the seasoned parents. As stupid as we are with hockey, we knew a little bit and we knew enough, and then you saw the parents who were like us 12 years ago, who were just getting introduced to the sport. Their kid was excelling and now they're on a team and they were trying to learn stuff. So you're kind of picking out the levels of hockey parents as you meet the parents in the organization.
Maybe we should do an episode on hockey parent experience and what levels we can come up with.
Yeah, exactly.
I think beyond that, that's when the kids start really getting to know each other as well, and they get to know each other off the ice. I know both of our boys are constantly playing online video games with their hockey team friends because that's the way they connect, because we don't all live in the same neighborhood, but that's a great way for them to connect, and I think even some of the kids that have moved away, maybe they moved to a different state or whatever, they're still playing online video games with these kids and still chatting with them, over FaceTime or whatever, and I think that's great for the kids as well, is much as video games get a bad rap, I think that's a positive, especially in this situation where the kids don't all go to the same school, they don't all live in the same neighborhood. They're still able to interact off the ice.
And I'll even expand on that further in that our oldest has played with various teams across, the region, and he's met kids, not on his team who he plays video games with out of Pittsburgh. He was on a online game once and struck up a conversation with a kid from Buffalo, New York, who they played in Tennessee. So those relationships expand beyond your team, to encompass other teams and other kids you meet in the tournaments. We'll get to that, on a later episode about meeting kids across the country.
I think, we're going to talk about this the next week or two as well. Summer camps, our kids have met other players at summer camp and have kept in touch with them. So back, we always go back to the 80s because we're clearly Gen X parents, and you had pen pals or you wrote somebody a letter or sent them a postcard. Well, now the kids are texting each other, or they're on Snapchat together, or they're, playing online video games together with kids maybe that they met at a summer camp or at a tournament or something along those lines, which I
Yeah,
think is really cool.
basically, the world is a smaller place nowadays as opposed to when we were kids. And to Angela's point, in the 80s, for me personally, the only kids I knew were the kids in my neighborhood. I grew up in a town of 700, and the kids I went to school with. My class had a class size of 16. That was my world. To know that my kids today have friends in Dayton, Ohio, and Pittsburgh, and Buffalo, it blows my mind. They still have their school friends, but they have these other friends that are dotted across the landscape of Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio that are on their teams that they play with now. So it is a wild world, and the kids stay in touch, as exemplified by the weekend update that we had about our kid meeting for dinner with his old team. Those kids haven't played with him in 3 years, but they're still friends. They still hang out. They still talk, and they still text and chat. So the relationships are probably gonna be lifelong relationships, and it's an incredible thing to witness.
Absolutely. I was mentioning a lot of the electronic stuff, the video games and the chats and whatever, which leads me into the team chats. So there's always, it
Ugh.
seems to be a, I know
Ugh.
you hate them,
Ugh.
but they're a necessary evil. You've got the team chats. The parents typically have a team chat together. And as the kids get older, especially when they get into that, 12, 14, 16 U age groups, they've got their own team chats, and it's the players on team chats. So lots of stuff going on within those text messages, essentially between the kids and between the parents.
The parent team chat, I am not a fan of. I'm sorry if you're listening and you're part of my kids' team chats. I just don't pay attention at all. Angela is the unofficial designated team chat parent in this family. She handles it.
Because I have to
Well,
be. I have to be. If there's something in there that we need to know, one of us has to know it, so I have to take that on.
I'll jump in there every
Um,
once
I know, I know. Anyways, I wanted to mention that. I think we could probably do a whole episode on, the different team apps and different team chats that we've used over the years, but just wanted to mention that and mention the kids, typically get on their own, chat channel as well. From there, I kinda wanna talk a little bit about relationships with coaches, the parent-coach relationship and the player-coach relationships.
So very sensitive subject here. Parents' relationship with the coaches. We've seen it all. You've seen I mean, there was something in the news about a guy who waved a gun at a coach. It was a basketball game, but he waved a gun at a coach because his kid wasn't playing enough. So that whole coach parent dynamic is a fine line, and you want to tread softly. Coaches, they're human. They're people. They're probably more than likely a parent just like you. So I see your notes here, Angela, and my favorite thing here is on those tournaments, on those away tournaments, when you're with the coach in the lobby of the hotel or when you're just kind of chit chatting, you're not talking hockey. I mean, you're not talking about your kid. You're not talking about your kid's playing time. You maybe touch on the game for a few minutes, but you're having general friend conversations not related to the sport, and I think that's a huge step in saying, "Look, I respect that you're a coach. We don't have to talk about hockey the entire conversation.
I think that's incredibly important to keep in mind that the coaches are human, that they're typically parents, they're volunteers the vast majority of the time. And I think getting to know that coach as a person, as not just the coach, I think is really important. It also helps you get to know their style, how they interact with your player on the ice and off the ice is important to kind of pick up on those cues and pick up on their communication style. If your player starts having some issues with things on the ice, you can maybe coach them a little bit as a parent on how to communicate with their coach if you have a better relationship with their coach.
But, again, I ran into Henry's coach over the weekend at the pond hockey, and he started telling me stuff about Henry and how he could develop better. And, I'm Greg, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were, like, explaining some type of hand motions or something. I was like, "Yeah, that makes sense." It didn't make sense to me. I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but yes, I'll talk to Henry about listening to you to do what you're saying that I did not understand. I'm a pucked up parent. I don't understand all aspects of the sport. But you also have, and using Greg as an example, his son is on the team. So you have the coach probably has a kid on the team, and that coach is going to go wherever his kid plays. So that's another, we went back to like the kids are in the 2014 playing on a 2014 team. So the coach will move with that team because his kid's progressing through. And you're going to notice, you're going to hear people complain the coach's kid's getting all the playing time. The coach's kid is not the best kid on the team, or the coach's kid is the best kid on the team. We've not had that problem. Greg's kid, I'm not gonna say his name, but Greg's kid is a stud. He's a heck of a player. So whatever playing time he gets, the kid fully deserves it. Our oldest son, his son used to play, and his coach was in love with the sport so much that he continued coaching varsity hockey, and actually his son is the defensive coach for the team. So that became a family affair.
I wanted to point out too the non-parent coaches. We have run across that a couple of times over the years where they're typically parents that had kids that played that have either grown up, moved on, whatever, but they're still coaching and I think it's an interesting dynamic and sometimes can be better when you don't have the coach's kid on the team, but it's something to look out for and I think different organizations handle that differently, but did want to point out that it does happen from time to time and also just to kind of reiterate, the coach's kid on the team can be a sensitive subject, so it's definitely something you wanna, keep your eyes and ears open and see how that plays out.
The non-parent coaches, they exist. I mean, I know a guy who got probation for, I think it was drinking and driving. He took a district number 5, I think, and flipped them around, and they beat the best team in the league and won the league and went on to play in, like, the nationals. And, of course, I'm making Mighty Duck references because that's what Gordon Bombay was. He was a non-parent coach, and, I think he got a was it a DUI? Am I right with
I
that?
don't remember. It's been a long time since I've watched that movie, but yeah, okay, I think we've had enough '80s references today. We're showing our age.
Would you rather me do '70s references? Alright, Coach Buttermaker for the, Bad News Bears. He was an alcoholic. He had no kids on the
Yeah.
and the kids smoking Frank. Oh my gosh, I think our demographic, most listeners are not as old as us, so go rent Bad News,
Exactly.
not the Billy
Yeah.
Bob Thornton one, it's awful. Go rent the one with, Walter Matthau, am I right on that?
Walter Matthau, yes.
Matthau, if you wanna
Yeah.
see that. That was basically the
Oh my
baseball
gosh.
coach I had as a kid.
All right, let's move on a little bit. I was going to talk a little bit more about other parents. So, the other parents have opportunities to do some other volunteer work. There's always a team manager that's usually a parent. Parents come in as the scorekeeper, penalty box monitor. There's typically a fun coordinator, one of those parents that likes to do all of the team outings and fun things.
Alright, so holy cow, I've been in these scenarios where they've needed parents to help out, and I've been asked to be the scorekeeper. I've never done it. I'll never do that because when you see the parents and if you're listening and you're in youth hockey, you've seen it. They're ready to drop the puck and they can't get the clock to work. Somebody went in the penalty box, they can't get the 2 minutes up on on the box. Someone scored a goal and they're trying to put the number up and the parents are yelling, "I'm a firefighter. I work under high pressure situations." But that is beyond the pressure situation I want to be in as the scorekeeper. Have you ever done it?
I have not. I always say I'm unqualified. I don't meet the qualifications to do that. But I mention all of those things because that's just another way, if you're interested in doing that kind of stuff, that's just another way for you to get involved with the team and get to know the other parents and the players and coaches on the team.
You also mentioned penalty box monitor. I enjoy that. I've done that a few times. That's fun. The kids are all angry when they get in there. They're like, I don't want to say they're in tears, but they're like, you can tell they're really, really angry. You're opening the door for them and you're shutting it. I can recount numerous times. Again, if you've listened to earlier episodes, we got to get there an hour before the game starts. I bring in a book. I'm bringing in a blanket. I'm going to sit there and read until the game starts. And there's been times where I've been asked to be the penalty box monitor, and I'll take my blanket in there and I'll take my book in there, and the kids will sit down and I'm joking with them like, "Let me read you a story, wrap yourself up in a blanket," and just the eye rolls and the anger because they're already angry because they got a penalty, and now they got to deal with Sam's nerdy dad with a blanket in the box. So I enjoyed working the penalty box.
Because you get to see a little bit more of the action, you get to learn a little bit more about the kid, or you get to see more of the kid's personality, how they react to having that penalty or whatever. So I always find that interesting. I try not to work the penalty box. In fact, I'm not sure I've ever done it, maybe once or twice.
Oh man, I've done a lot, and it's extra special when your own kid gets in the penalty box because then you get to spend some quality time with them, and it's you're getting 2 minutes in the box with your kid, and then you're scolding them. You're like, "Why did you hit him? Why did you blindside him? Why'd you hook him?" So, yes, the penalty if you ever get a chance to do the penalty box monitor, I highly, highly recommend it. If you ever get the chance to do the scorekeeper, too much pressure, don't do it. What
Well,
other
somebody's gonna have to do it. So those
uh,
those who are good at that, have at it. I'm like I said, I'm unqualified.
I'm not doing the, scorekeeper, no, thank you. What are the parent stereotype? I mean, honestly, Angela, I wanna do an episode on parent at the or not parents, let's just say people at the rink. Who do you meet at the rink? So but let's go into some parent stereotypes that are at the ice rink during the games with the youth hockey.
Again, I think we could do a whole episode on this, but just to throw out a few, you've got helicopter parents, the parents with super high expectations,
Oh, yeah, I
what
got
you like to call the
yeah,
sports
helicopter
dad.
parents is the parent is hovering over the kids no matter the age, they're all on top of them. They're probably s if I know goalie I guess a goalie parent standing behind the glass by the goalie, that's not a helicopter parent, I wouldn't consider that. Goalie just
No, that's
set
not a
that aside.
helicopter
But
parent.
this is the parent
Yeah.
that moves up and down the rink watching their kid play, so,
Or just being in the business of their kid all the time.
okay, so and then the high expectation parent, is that the "My kid's going to the NHL" parent?
I think it's that or the parent who thinks their kid yeah, that thinks their kid's going to the NHL, or they just have super, super high expectations for their kid and get upset if they make a mistake.
Oh, okay, like, or 3 goals, you didn't score any, what the heck is wrong with you type deal.
Or why did you miss that pass? And those so maybe that could be probably split into 2. The high expectation of my kid's going to the NHL, he's the greatest thing ever, and then the parent who, the kid can't live up to the expectations because they made a mistake.
Safe to say that parent probably has bruises on their hands from, banging on the glass at their kid?
Probably,
Probably.
probably. And no voice from yelling too much.
'Cause you know what's effective at a rink? Yelling at your kid, because God knows they can hear you through the glass, the noise of the compressor, the coach is yelling, the other kid's screaming, so, we've asked our kids before, "Can you hear us screaming?" "No, can't hear you at all." So, but keep screaming.
That may be that they just don't listen to us, but that's a whole 'nother
Oh, so
story.
you're saying it's selective hearing.
Selective hearing, yes, for sure.
Uh,
I think that is the case in sometimes.
what other parents you got?
The MIA parent, the parent that's never around.
Oh, yeah, you'll go to, like, the 20th game of the season, there's, like, some random dude sitting next to you, like, "Who's this guy?" "Oh, that's Johnny's dad, he just never shows up to any games." The neglectful parent, like the parents you see in the movies where the kid never shows up to the parent never shows up to the game and the kid's out there looking in the crowd for the dad and he ain't there. Uh,
Right.
I'm thinking of Hook, for some reason. Robin Williams and his kid played baseball at the beginning of the movie, and the dad was never there or he was always on the cell phone. So the MIA parent.
And then your favorite is the sports dads.
All right, sports dads, let's define them. They're standing on the glass. They got their arms crossed. The hat's on backwards. It's a Boston Bruins hat or another NHL team. They have a scowl on their face and they are looking very angry. So that can almost go into the hacks expectation parent, but they are sports dads. And I'm going to flip it on you because I am a dad. I'm going to say the mama bears. What about the mama
Oh,
bears?
yeah.
I'm a
Well,
bear.
that
Don't touch
oh, yeah.
Don't you touch my kid, Rip. I'm gonna mama bear you. I'm gonna
Yeah,
mama.
don't touch my baby.
Yeah, don't touch my baby. Your baby's 16 years old. He can take care of himself. So
Right.
hopefully we didn't offend anybody with these because we are going to go into great detail these on another episode. I'm sure we fit in this category somewhere. Actually, my category is not here. It's nonchalant dad who reads a book and is very. I'm usually very quiet. I know you're loud. I would put you maybe at the not helicopter parent, expectation parent. I don't know where I would put you.
I don't know. We need to do some more discussion on that and come up with some categories and make sure we fit ourselves into those categories because we definitely fit into some category.
Absolutely. I know, I've heard coaches say, he's a weird guy up in the crowd with a book and a blanket. I mean, blankets keep me warm, but the book is the odd thing for me, and I'm up there not wearing generally don't wear the team colors or the team sweatshirts because I don't have them. But yeah, I'm sure we can all fit into a category. I'm sure everybody out there listening to category, maybe that's something I'll put out on social media. Give us your favorite hockey parent type.
Yes, the hockey parent stereotype and define it. And I think we could come up with some good stuff there. There's definitely some crossovers, but I think that it all folds into this whole building the relationships. You got to find your people. And if you're a sports dad, you hang out with the other sports dads. And if you're a helicopter mom, you hang out with the helicopter moms.
That works in perfect because, I was part of that, like, even with the sports dads, these sports dads would come up to me and ask, "Where did you play hockey at?" "Well, I didn't play." "Well, which sport did you play?" I didn't play a sport." And then they're talking to me about all this stuff, and I quite frankly don't know. I mean, if you wanna come up to me and talk about the Hunger Games series, of books, I'll gladly talk to you about that. Or you wanna talk about, um something else that I'm better with, but I was not good at talking about hockey. Of course, I am now, and it's gotten better since I've learned the sport, but back then, man, I was lost, and thankfully, we found a good group early on and kinda stuck with them. I have a little more about parents I wanna get to before we hit into to rinks and road trips. The parents are gonna be with you for a while. We have parents that we've been with for over, upwards of 12 years. Angela, we've taken vacations to other countries, to Mexico, with parents we've met through our kids' programs. Granted, we went to Mexico without kids. We went to an inclusive and drank a lot, but you're gonna make lifelong friends out of this, and even some of the coaches are great friends. Actually, I'm texting one of Sam's former coaches about coming over to our house for the Super Bowl. So, these relationships are not only your kids group texting and chit-chatting with and hanging out with, the parents are doing the same.
Absolutely. And again, that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this episode and talk about the relationships that you build, kind of how they start and how you find your people. I've said that many times, but I think that's the case is you find your people and you hang with them and you get to know them and they become really lifelong friends. Like you said, some of the initial coaches that Sam had 12 years ago, we still are friends with today, as well as some of the other parents that he's played with for the last 5, 6, 7 years. We have formed great friendships with and hang out with away from hockey as well.
And if you can't find your people, just sit at table number 5 with the other freaks and weirdos, if that's a wedding singer reference, if you remember that. So, let's talk about Are We There Yet? Rinks and road trips. Angela, relationship building on the road. What do you got?
Places where the relationship building happens really quickly because you're confined to usually a hotel room lobby, something along those lines. You guys have the entire weekend together. So you're really getting to know people on those road trips. And even between games, if you're not going on road trips, you've got those between games. You've got a 9 a.m. game and then your next game's not till 1 p.m. or whatever. That's when you're really getting to know each other. You're getting to see which kids kind of run in groups together. You're seeing which parents run in groups together. So I think that's one of those places that this really um eh, really builds. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we can do that and how we can, I don't want to say force the relationship, but there's team building functions and things along those lines that we want to get into.
We said this on an earlier episode, and I'll reiterate it, is that I have a family. I have sisters. I have brothers-in-law. I have nieces and nephews. I spend more time with this hockey family than I do my own family. So you're gonna spend every weekend, I mean, essentially, you're taking mini vacations. Granted, they're playing hockey, but you're taking mini vacations to cities that you've not been in or that you've been in numerous times. that are 4 hours from your house, and you're hanging out with them for the entire weekend. It's almost like you're stuck together on this trip, and we're gonna make it work. So let's talk about team functions as you go on road trips and what bonds us together on those trips.
A lot of times on these road trips, you'll have usually it's the fun parent, the organizational parent that will put together either some sort of a team dinner or maybe they will rent the conference room at the hotel for everybody to hang out at, or they do some other sort of activity for between games or during some of that downtime.
Okay, full disclaimer, I am anti-team dinner. Anti-team and let me clarify. I am anti-team dinner at a restaurant, and I'll tell you why. Because I feel bad for the restaurant staff. You have these kids screaming, you have a party of, I don't know, 30, and, the food is late or it takes a long time. It's just I'm so uncomfortable, and on top of that, I like to eat at local restaurants, and I'm not driving to Pittsburgh and eating at an Olive Garden with 30 other people. That's just not what I wanna do. But your point about renting the conference room and bringing food in there, like pizzas or bring your own food, that's a great bonding experience. The kids get what they want, you get what you want, and you're not destroying some restaurant and some server's night at the restaurant. So, I'm anti-team dinner at a location. I'm cool with it at the hotel.
I get your anti-team dinner. I'm not a huge fan of it either, but I think there's ways to make it work without it being obnoxious, without it being, 30, 40 people at the local Olive Garden. There are ways you pick the right restaurant. You pick a restaurant that can do that kind of an order or you separate out into different tables. There's ways to make it work and you can figure that out without overwhelming the service staff at, the local chain restaurant.
Yeah, get to a restaurant that could do that order, Golden Corral, go eat the buffet at the Golden
Jeez.
Corral. I thought about and it's funny you say that. I thought about you today, because I remember one of your team dinners that you went on, and you related the story to me because I hadn't seen one of these restaurants in years, and they're all shutting down as of this week. Bahama Breeze. I think didn't you have a team dinner at Bahama Breeze?
There was one year we did a team dinner at Bahama Breeze, and that one truly was awful. And what I mean by like picking the right restaurant is, go to the pizza place where you order 6 or 7 pizzas and not everybody order an individual entree. That's what I mean, not go to Golden Corral where everybody can eat from the trough.
Rest in peace, Bahama Breeze. We salute you and your fried plantains. And then at the hotel, the bonding. I know early on when Sam was young, they always got on that stupid lobby computer that little conference center. But what I started doing, I have a, mini Nintendo Entertainment System, 80s reference again, but it's a mini NES and has every Nintendo game on it. I'll throw that in my overnight bag and set it up on the TV for the kids. And I swear, man, those kids, the generation born in 2014, they love themselves some Blades of Steel, from 1988. So that's been a huge success bringing the video games, and even for the parents, I know board games. We've brought board games. What's the Cards Against Humanity, the filthy games. What's your take on and what's your favorite activity to do in a conference room besides drink and shoot the crap?
Well, I mean, obviously, just hanging out and having a couple of drinks in the conference room or in the lobby, I think is one of those things that most travel sport parents do. But we have done the Cards Against Humanity. There was another one we did, New Phone Who Dis. Which it's similar to Cards Against Humanity, but it's based on text messages. We've done some board games. I think there was one time where actually the inventor of the board game
Oh yeah,
happened to be at
flask.
the hotel and handed out boxes of the board games to all the kids.
Yeah, shout out to Klask, Klask. The inventor of it was there and gave all the kids it was kind of a hockey-esque board game with magnets, so it was really neat, and the kids all got free boards from the, inventor of it, and we still have it to this day and play it occasionally.
And I'll say too that a lot of times you mentioned your Nintendo that you bring to the hotel, but a lot of times the kids will bring their Xbox or their PlayStation or whatever, and they'll set it up, and then all of a sudden you have, 6 or 8 kids in one room and they're all playing, the Xbox or whatever. So I think there's, ways to keep yourselves entertained while building those friendships at the hotel. One of the other things that I wanted to mention, I know our younger son's team has done a lot of this. We'll go to a bowling alley and we'll go bowling for, an hour or two. Some of those other like video game places like Dave and Buster's where you can get out. The kids aren't jumping on trampolines or wearing themselves out between games, but it gives them an activity, something to do, and ways to interact with each other that's not just on the ice.
We've always timed out our tournaments like this for that reason, and if there's a huge gap in between, we'll find the fun person of our parent group will rent a Dave& and Buster's or rent a bowling alley or something like that, and great to Angela's point, you're trying not to gas the kid, especially if they have a game, so you're not doing the trampoline park, and that also leads me to, like, the hotel pool. That's always kind of the do to swim or not to swim is the question, and the answer to that is, when's your next game, and is the coach cool with it? Because I know we've had coaches before who said, "Don't let your kids swim in the pool because it wears them out," and it absolutely does.
It absolutely does, and I think we have kind of come to an agreement or come to the consensus of if it's a quick swim at night and they're gonna get a good night's rest before the next game, it's not so bad, and then, hey, if you lose out of the tournament and yeah, go swim all you want kinda thing, and I think that desire to swim in the hotel pool starts to fade as they get older too, so that's typically a question for the younger age groups.
I think we can go into way more detail on road trips and what to do there. I mean, I know, for example, you are a expert on Costco's around the tri-state area and north of that. You guys like to walk around Costco, oddly enough. Go figure. I am an expert in illicit stores where items aren't legal here in Kentucky, but they are in Michigan for other people, not for me. So there's plenty to do. And then also, what city are you visiting? And I know you're there for hockey. You're probably not sick of hockey. So you're saying, do they have a minor league team? Do they have an NHL team? Can we swing going to a game? And I know early on in the season too, we also look for like baseball games. So there's also sporting events you could hit that are for whatever local city that you're going to.
Don't forget about the college games. We've done some college hockey
Yeah,
games,
fun.
as well, and
You got
those have been a lot of fun.
Michigan? You did Michigan, right?
We've been
Awesome.
to Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, I think Ohio University, Notre Dame. We went to Notre Dame once, so yeah. We've hit a lot of those college games too.
So what
Um,
Well, we'll save that for another episode, but, the joy that you see when all the kids get on the old Titantron, the old big TV at the game and, scream and everything else, it's well worth whatever ticket prices are, and usually, again, that's your fun person, they're arranging that. They're like, "Hey, let's get a block of tickets so we can all sit together." So we've done that numerous times.
there's another game that we played with, a longtime team that the parents would always play a game and kind of an icebreaker game, and it's fun facts. So instead of just asking, "Hey, so where do you work?" or "What do you do?" or, "What team did you play for when you were a kid?" We started this game of fun facts. And so you have to tell something about yourself that's interesting, that's not necessarily what your job is or where you went to high school or college or whatever. And so that's always, especially if you're sitting around with some adult beverages, can become really interesting. You learn a lot of good facts about your fellow parents.
So, like, I would say I was once naked in a phone booth in a Houston, Texas bar with a bachelorette because she had to fulfill a item on her list for her bachelorette party.
Yeah, exactly. That
That
that could be a fun fact.
that may or may not have happened. I've not ever done this. I gotta admit, that sounds intriguing. I could probably come up with some stories like the one I just, confessed to you that you've probably never heard.
I have heard that one, and, trust me, there were lots of fun facts along those lines, and it's a great way to get some laughs and learn a lot more about those parents you're hanging out with every weekend.
It sounds like a middle-aged, never ever have I ever.
Exactly. That's probably it. And I'll throw out, a couple other things, as your parents in the hotel lobby or whatever, we have watched so many NFL games, especially playoff games, college football games, NHL games, basketball games, you get into March Madness and you're watching basketball games. So it's always good to, kind of sit back and watch those other sports with the parents too. That's another way we found to pass the time.
Yeah, a complete side note, I do watch NFL. I'm a Miami Dolphins fan. Go Dolphins. They're terrible, but because My Sundays involve hockey. My Sundays involve hockey, driving home from hockey. I have Sirius XM that has, I got to listen to all the games on the radio because I can't be home to watch them. So, that's something I've always done. But Angela's point, you're in the middle of hockey, of a football season, of basketball season. So you're catching those games, and that is a fun. You hit a sports bar, you watch it in the lobby, and that's a great bonding opportunity for the kids and also for the parents.
You started talking about reflections and you kind of stole what my reflection was going to be.
Sorry.
I was going to talk about our oldest and going to dinner with a bunch of his former teammates. And I find that bond with those kids so heartwarming. Our kids are often closer with their teammates than they are the kids that they go to school with or their neighborhood friends because they spend so much time with them that honestly, I would take some of these kids as my own. And I think our kids really feel like some of their teammates are like siblings. And we almost become co-parents with the parents. And whether it's yelling at the other kid or the teammate on the ice or helping discipline the other kids or giving them a hug or an encouraging word after a hard game, we really have built quite a family around this. And I think it's been great for not only our kids, but for us too.
I agree, and we talked about this a few weeks ago. The parents, if a mishap occurs, a jersey gets left behind or equipment it fails or breaks, the parents are throwing in together and helping each other out. We've made lifelong friends. Our kids have made lifelong friends, and we've been blessed with all of our kids' teams. The parents are phenomenal. Our 12U parents, they're phenomenal. Sam, our 17, the parents are phenomenal. They're lifelong friends. I mean, we were going to do birthday dinner with some of the hockey parents. I'm texting with some of the old hockey parents right now. They're our friends now. Your kids' friends, parents become your friends, and that's just the way life is. And we're fortunate to have hockey in our life, and all of the parents and all the kids associated with this great sport. So, Angela, tip of the week.
Well, so I hate to bring us down, but my tip of the week is if your kids aren't having fun and they're not building those relationships with their teammates, it might be time to assess the situation. Take a look at what's going on. Is there some sort of a bullying situation? Are there some loners on the team? Are the coaches overly intense? What's going on that your kids aren't building that relationship? Is there some sort of a personality clash? And if that's the case, it might be time to look for a new team, a new coach, a new association, something along those lines, because we've said this many times. And for me, this sport and playing sports in general as a kid is supposed to be fun.
It's supposed to be fun. It should be fun for the kid. It should be fun for you. It shouldn't be stressful. I mean, there's gonna be stress. It is hockey. You are living life on the edge during a game, but you should look forward to it. Your kids should look forward to it. And we're gonna get into that more on the next episode when we talk spring and summer hockey and tryouts as to, where your kid fits and how good they are and if they're happy playing, because we always told our kids, "If you don't wanna do this, or if you don't wanna play here, you need to tell us." Luckily, we've not ever been put in that position, but we've seen it. We've seen other parents, we've seen other kids who just didn't fit in with the team, not to their own fault, it's just because their kids either didn't wanna play and the parents were forcing them to play, or the parents were just not seeing the writing on the wall that the kid was out shooting what division they should actually play in. So, find that fit. Find and your best resource is the other parents and especially the coaches.
And not to say that you can't be on an intense team or be competitive with this, but at the same time, there still needs to be some fun and some joy out of the whole process. And I think that's what we're getting out there.
Right, right. I mean, I would equate it to our kids playing baseball. It got to a point where it wasn't there. They weren't having fun. They were kind of bored with it. I think Sam was getting people water and he's like, "Yeah, I'm kind of done with this." And we were fine with it. We were good with it. So, find your spot. Hockey is for everyone. Just find the best location for your kid. With that said, Angela, you want to take us to your outro?
I appreciate everyone listening. Please follow, subscribe, share, and leave us a comment on whatever platform you're listening on.
We have merchandise. It's tagged or pinned to the top of our Facebook page. I do want to have a new segment. I think I've been doing this kind of weekly. I do want to shout out small businesses, and I want to shout out Willy Wax, Willy Wax. They're on Facebook. You can order from there. It is a wax company started by youth hockey parents and their kids, and they make it right there in their kitchen. They also have flavored wax that you can try out. So give them a look, see if you can find some wax that'll fit your kid's need, and let them know that the pucked up parents sent you. We also want to thank everyone. We've had lots of followers, lots of streams and downloads, way more than we ever expected. And we hope to continue to grow this. And we are looking forward to the next episode, which will be on Angela Help Me Out. We're going to do spring, summer hockey and tryouts, correct?
I think we're just gonna do spring and summer hockey. I think tryouts probably deserves its own episode.
That sounds good. And we will be eyeing our next interview. So we're going to look for someone to interview on the next episode. So, with that said, thank you, everyone. Always keep your stick on the ice. We are in this together.
Out before dawn, can't feel my face. Coffee spilling all over the place. Forgot the sticks, we're turning around. Another weekend and some hockey.